Let's address the drama this week of me back in the weeds with MSU Twitter. Carson Cooper. We're going to frame this as like a state of the Michigan State front court, but I want to talk specifically about Carson Cooper and my comments on him. Michigan State's front court this year, on paper, the only weakness of this team. It is what it is. It might not be a weakness anymore because they have some highly touted, highly talented players that could come in and impact the game in ways that the returning players on last year's team that had a bad front court cannot. Okay. Of course, we are talking about the returning players being Mady Sissoko, Jackson Kohler, and Carson Cooper. I put them in that order because that's the order of prioritization they've had and should have based on the players that they are. Mady, Jackson, Carson Cooper. They bring in Xavier Booker, who, depending on who you ask, is either a 4 or a 5, will play some minutes at the 5. Maybe he won't. And Cohen Carr could obviously play a lot of minutes at the 3 or the 4. In my world, you want those two guys to play more minutes because they have higher ceilings and could help this team reach a level that last year's team simply could not, playing Mady Sissoko 20 minutes a game and sprinkling in Jackson and Carson. All three of those centers that are returning give you different things. Mady is the most steady. That's a terrifying thing to say out loud as a truth, that Mady Sissoko is the most steady. Carson Cooper shows great flashes, really bouncy, fun. Oh my God, I can squint and almost see Colin Castleton in him. That's true. For a third center, he's probably the most fun one I've seen in years. He's still a third center with some horrible advanced numbers. And Jackson Kohler really struggled on one end of the court last year. And offensively, it wasn't as good as we thought it could have been right away. So, look, none of these guys are finished products. I think Mady's pretty close to a finished product, honestly. But Jackson and Carson aren't. Those guys could take huge leaps. I'm not ruling that out. But it's going to take a huge leap for them to even approach what Xavier Booker already is. There's a McDonald's All-American coming into this front court, and everybody wants to downplay that guy in favor of a guy in Carson Cooper, who last season, Cart, had an 8.1% rebounding rate. That's lower than Alvin Ellis's career at Michigan State. Last season, he had a 4.6% block rate. That's half of Michael Peterson's block rate his final year at Michigan State. I get it. It's a small sample size. In that small sample size, he showed an ability to do nothing but catch and dunk, which quite frankly was an upgrade over Mady for much of the year. And he had some moments where he defended pick and roll well. That's true. But I got a bunch of heat this week. Where this is coming from, I got a bunch of heat this week comparing him to Colby Wallerman in the context that, you know, I'm looking for Xavier Booker to have a Deontay Davis level impact on this team in year one. If you go back and look at that team Deontay was on, he played 18 minutes a game. That's it. I think that's about what to expect from Xavier Booker, maybe hopefully a little more if he's good. But Davis played 18 minutes a game on a team that had senior Matt Costello and then Gavin Schilling, Colby Wallerman, and Kenny Goins. That trio reminds me a lot of the impact of this Michigan State trio. Like Gavin Schilling and Mady Sissoko are physical guys who won't really lose you a game, but they have really low ceilings. Then you go down the list, Colby Wallerman and Carson Cooper, both coincidentally average 1 and 1, by the way. Third centers, like they're just third centers. They can earn you some minutes and they're hardworking guys, but they're third centers. Jackson Kohler, Kenny Goins, like guys that start slow, you're not thinking much of, but maybe 4 years down the line are really good, really important pieces of a team. That's the comp. And you would have thought that I lit Michigan State on fire with the way my mentions were upset with me for comparing Carson Cooper to a guy who averaged 1.1 points a game, which is what Carson Cooper averaged last year. So throw this to you. Is it disrespectful of me to compare Carson Cooper to Colby Wallerman in the context that I did, or is it okay?
Okay, so I'll say this. I immediately thought it was okay. I literally did think it was okay because I've obviously said my feelings on it's baffling to me that we have spent an offseason saying we want the starting center to be Carson Cooper because he's eating 4,000 calories a day and he's up to 245 pounds. And he had a really good tip dunk against USC. and he did a great wall up against Kansas State. That's it. If that's the bar to be the starting center on this team, that's crazy. I don't want to be that's just it doesn't make sense to me. And then coincidentally, why this is going on, we're putting down the McDonald's All-American talent, and we're already preparing for year 2 of the McDonald's All-American. Why don't we want this kid to be good? Why don't we want him to be the best front court player on the team? He's definitely the most talented front court player on the team. I don't even think that's up for argument here. And to be honest with you, Greg, in my eyes, like Xavier Booker, flat out, most talented. Carson Cooper would be second on my list, though, of bigs, just because I think that this is where I think there's a little bit disconnect on the Woolman line for me. Kobe Woolman, I did not know was only 6'7". That's crazy. At least Carson Cooper is 6'10" with like a plus wingspan. Yeah. So he has at least more physical tools, I think, than Kobe Woolman. But then again, he has more physical tools than Kobe Woolman and the same stats as Kobe Woolman. So, I guess you could make that on a reverse argument, but it's just odd to me that we are just Michigan State's fan base wants to attach themselves to a player and ride for that player. And I don't understand that. Why can't we ride for everybody? Or why can't we ride for the guy with more talent? Because I think it's clear that Xavier Booker has more talent than anyone else in this front court.
Yeah, it's interesting, like, who the fan consensus, and some fans don't, like, I don't want to characterize all fans, but there definitely is like a greater than 50% consensus that seems to gravitate to some players and push away others. Like, they pushed away Joey Hauser for years, and Joey was great.
Yeah, but even when you look at it, I know this is the state of the front court union, but why are we pushing for Trey Holloman minutes when that would cut into Jeremy Fears minutes?
Right. It's kind of the same thing. Like,
I don't understand.
Good basketball teams don't have 13 great players. They have anywhere from 5 to 10, and then they have some bench guys. Like, go back through the national champions and look through the 11th, 12th, 13th guys on those teams. Those weren't guys you're begging for them to put in the game over the better players. And to me, like, there's 2 guys on this roster that are that right now, Trey Holloman and Carson Cooper. And those guys might end up taking minutes from more talented players that are younger than them. And I'm probably going to have the battle all season long with Michigan State Twitter on, like, if that's a good or bad thing. I'm going to try not to complain much because I know this team's loaded. Like, as long as Fears is getting some minutes, I'm really not going to complain that much about rotations this year because he should play a lot of minutes and a lot of guys. But it's not disrespectful to compare Carson Cooper's impact to Colby Wallerman's impact. I get they're not similar players at all. They're not. It's a bad thing on Carson that his numbers and what he's done, his production, are similar to Colby Wallerman. They were similar in prestige as quote unquote recruits. Where was Carson Cooper going to go? Like, I'm sorry. And look, Izzo found a gem, right? He found a gem for a third center. That's what Carson Cooper is. And if you ask him to be more, like, it's okay. I've told you this so many times last month. It's okay to hope. It's okay to say, maybe 4 years from now, Carson Cooper can be really good and be a guy. It's not okay to act like he already is that based on last season, because he wasn't. He was a bad player on the position that was the problem for Michigan State last year. And the fact that they made the Sweet 16 doesn't erase that. And Carson Cooper did give them good minutes in the NCAA tournament. By the way, so did Colby Wallerman. Colby Wallerman played double-digit minutes in the Final Four. I watched it with my own eyes. He battled Jahlil Okafor. So I don't think it was a disrespectful comp. If Carson Cooper takes a jump this year, I'll kill the comp. As simple as that. Like, I got some people being like, this is Tum Tum all over again. I don't think this is anything like when I compared Tum and Tyson Walker at all, because that one was coming from a place of praise to Tum Tum. Even if people don't want to believe that, like, I'm a Tum Tum guy. I thought he was a good player for Michigan State. This one is not coming from a place of praise. Sorry, Colby Wallerman. Sorry, Carson Cooper. Like, you haven't done shit in your career. That's this comp.
But this is what this is entrenched in. Just stop. There's hoping, and then there's just not talking about what a player is doing at the time you're speaking about them. At the time of that Tyson Walker and Tum Tum discussion, it was an argument. The stats matched up. everything across the board matched up. After that, he completely broke out of his shell, started shooting the ball more. The comps went out the window. We said he's not Tum Tum anymore. So right now, Carson Cooper, I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm doing my head like this. Carson Cooper is Kobe Wallaman. He will remain Kobe Wallaman until proven otherwise. He might do it. If he does do it, you can tune into our daily episodes and hear us talk about how he isn't anymore. If he still is, you can tune back in again and we'll tell you that we were right and that he is. It's just like not everyone is going to turn. Not everyone has. I think the one that annoys me the most, and I don't want to say this is everybody in the fan base. It might be just be one person. Someone told me, like, why can't Carson Cooper be Matt Costello? My brother in Christ, one, you're not going to sit and talk to me and have a conversation and disrespect Sir Matt Costello like he wasn't one of the best Michigan high school basketball players of all time. Okay. Carson Cooper couldn't play at Jackson Northwest, so he went to IMGB team. Let's let that be very, very well known. Matt Costello was a top 50 recruit. The whole country wanted Matt Costello. Like, I don't know why it's just, why are we putting him on this pedestal that he should be this guy? If he does become Kobe Wallaman, shit, it might be fine because Xavier Booker might be that guy and it'd be fine. Or Carson or Kohler takes a step, or Madi maybe takes a step. So it's not everyone can be that guy. That's not how college basketball teams work.
Yeah, Mr. Basketball, Matt Costello. I can't believe I just got the Carter Elliott endorsement, but yeah, I think it was. I actually love this guy. I think it's Travis Mulhauser on Twitter, who I think his ad is something like Portis.
Is that the guy that wants to fight you in Meyer parking lot all the time?
Yeah, I love this guy, and he's been nice to me. We disagree on a lot of Michigan State related things. He's told me he agrees with things that I've said before. Like, it's a cordial Twitter engagement. Some aren't. That is with him. I just couldn't disagree more with his disagreement with me on this. It's like if I have to explain to you the difference between Matt Costello and Carson Cooper, I'm fighting a losing battle. I'm just wasting my time on Twitter. And that's kind of how I feel with this. Again, if all goes well, Carson Cooper is the fourth center on this team. And like the way I see that playing out is Mady Sissoko starts games as he did all last season. I think you're going to see Jackson Kohler be the first center off the bench. And I think you're going to see a jump from him because he was a top 100 guy who I like. If we're going to praise Carson Cooper for big moments last year that happened in one game when he just catch and finish wide open dunks, why do we not praise Jackson Kohler for his moments? Because Jackson Kohler was giving Trace Jackson Davis hell. Like, to me, that was more impressive than anything Carson Cooper did. I expect a jump from Jackson. You'll see those two guys. And then if Xavier Booker is what I think he is, I think you're going to see him play 2 to 3 minutes at center in the first half. I think you're going to see him close games at the 5 and play 5-6 minutes. And that doesn't leave room. Like, you don't need 4 bigs on a team. You don't need them. So it's going to go one way or the other. Either everybody else is right about Carson Cooper, he makes a big leap and looks like a real backup center on this team, or I'm right and he's not even in the rotation. He might play like 1 to 2 minutes here and there.
But G, that's the thing that the leap is for him to be our backup center.
Right.
Stop hoping for this guy to be our great white hope at center. He's not.
Yeah. It's just like, I wish people would just acknowledge, like, I feel like there's a misconception that Michigan State's front court is good enough. It's not. The whole point is that they need different players. Like genuinely, let me ask you this genuinely, in your heart of hearts, say Xavier Booker is a total flop this year. He's just not playable. Is Michigan State good enough to win a national championship with this front court?
No.
That's how I feel too. And I don't understand why everybody else is acting like it's right. Like, they need to take a jump, and the jump is going to come from the McDonald's All-American and Cohen Carr. It's not going to come from who your third string center is.
We lost a lot of games last year because of who our front court was.
I feel like I watched a different front court than everybody else, but I'm glad you and I are aligned, my friend. I wasn't expecting alignment on this out of you. I appreciate that.
I'm willing to fight the good fight this year.
I appreciate that. Go green. Top 5 team in the country. Free Xavier Booker, though. Do I have to start the free Xavier Booker movement already? Are you going to yell at me for that?
Yes, I will. Now you're going too far.
If Carson Cooper, honestly, the biggest moment of the Michigan State basketball season for me this year is who checks in first off the bench. Is it Jackson Kohler, Xavier Booker, or Carson Cooper? That's going to tell me all I need to know. And if it's Carson Cooper, I'm muting everybody. I might delete my Twitter.
It's gonna be though.
You actually think so?
Uh-huh.
I think it's Kohler.
I
What
think
like
it's gonna be
what has Cooper done to leap Jackson Kohler? He was third last year.
he's taller.
I don't like it. I've placed my stake on the Jackson Kohler side of this argument, while everybody else seems to have abandoned Jackson. It's the favorites. They play favorites. They like guys they shouldn't like, and they don't like guys that can actually contribute. In my opinion, that's how I view it with those guys. Also, last thing we were talking about Trav, but he was gassing up like the big thing that he looked great in pick and roll coverage, and I said, no, he looked great in the clips that DK cut up that were just wide open dunks. And he was like, you don't know me well enough if you think that's what I'm talking about. And then 5 seconds later, he linked a video from the USC game where it was 9 Madi Sissoko plays and 3 Carson Cooper uncontested dunks. Like, that's all you have to point to, literally, is the 3 uncontested dunks he had in the USC game. And I guess you're right. Aesthetically, he looked great on those dunks, you guys. I mean, you can squint and see Zach Edey and Carson Cooper. It's pretty impressive.